Hello, and welcome to the first in what we hope to be a series of videos about the basics of APDA from the Novice Mentor Committee. My name is Jessica Hahn, and I'm here to talk about flowing. So, first question is obviously, what is flowing? Well, flowing is a bit of a catch-all phrase. It refers to the style of note-taking that most debaters do in order to keep up with the speed and pace of a normal debate round. Because debaters talk very fast, you need a very particular way of dividing your information so that you can both take notes fast as well as keep them organized. And the best way to keep them organized is to actually organize them in the same way a round generally organizes itself. And that'll lead to the setup of the two legal pads. So most debaters will go into a round and they'll have two legal pads right next to each other. And these legal pads will have columns already written on them. Depends on actually the person to person. Sometimes it'll be columns, sometimes you'll be doing this horizontally, sometimes like diagonally. It all really depends on personal preference, but generally speaking, the basic setup is these vertical columns. So each of these columns are labeled after each speech within the round. So you have one column for the PMC, two columns for LOC, two columns for MG, two columns for MO. And the reason for this is because this is basically patterning itself after how speeches themselves end up being organized. You have your on flow and you have your off flow. Now, think about it like this. In a round, you're listening to case statement, and you're having a debate about, I don't know, let's say vaccines. So you're having your debate about vaccines, and the Prime Minister gets up, and they start talking about like, oh, well, you have a duty to people, and blah, 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 and like the needs of the many outweigh the few, blah, 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 blah. And so on and so forth. And then you go through all of that speech, and then as they talk, you have to write down everything that they say. So that's why you only have one column for PMC, because they're only saying one speech. They're only arguing one thing. They're only arguing like why the gov case is true. And you're just writing down all of these things. But let's say you're the LO in this situation. Well, what are you doing while the Prime Minister gives a speech? Well, while the Prime Minister is giving a speech, the job of the LO is to be saying, but all of these things aren't true, right? Like, this is not true because of something, you know? And then, this is not true because something. Blah, blah, blah. You could have multiple somethings, by the way, of course, because, like, there could be multiple reasons why they're wrong. But so while you're writing down, squirreling down here, like number 4, something, 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 you're also squirreling down over here why 3 and 4 are also wrong. But even as you do that, you're all the way over here on the off flow, and this is where you write why, like, okay, so my side of things is why you shouldn't vaccine. So I'm trying to argue that vaccines are bad because they are cost prohibitive. And then like they have negative externalities for poor people because poor people are punished. Like how do you enforce this? Because how do you enforce this? Well, you have to have some sort of punishment, and like let's say the punishment is a fine or like something. Well, poor people like would totally be hurt by that more so than rich people who could probably just take the fine if they truly don't believe in vaccines. So either way, you've just got to like write down your arguments, and this is where the on case, off case distinction comes in, because the on case is basically where you have all of the arguments for why the case is true, and then that's what like PM and MG are supposed to be arguing. But meanwhile, like the responses to the on case go into these columns. That's why LOC and MO have their own columns on the on case flow. And then on the off case, well, this is where you like argue why the other side, like what the opposition is trying to argue, like vaccines are bad, mandatory vaccination, let's say this case was, is bad. Well, the LOC and the MO are going to say, yeah, it is bad, and the MG is like, no, 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 it's not bad. Like, these arguments don't work out, and it's like not bad because, like, whatever, you know? And this is just what you do the entire time. Like, if it is like you'll be writing all of this, and the only time basically in a round that you're not writing on this flow is when you yourself are giving a speech. Or it's literally the last speech of the round and you are side opposition. Sorry, it's literally the last speech of the round, so nobody is writing down the Prime Minister's rebuttal, maybe, because you guys are just like watching out for new arguments, right? Because like even if it is the case that like you're the leader of the opposition and you're thinking, I have to write my rebuttal. Well, remember, like you still have to be like looking for new calls, because like in the rebuttals, remember you can't give new arguments. So you got to be like checking your flow, and it's like, well, you know, so hey, the leader of the opposition made this argument, so Prime Minister, you can't like be responding to that in the rebuttal. That's like that's a point of order. But then like, what if then the MO says, nah, 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 the MO said this thing, which is very different from this other thing. So I can respond to that. Well, if you were the LOC and you weren't writing that down, then it's just like, sorry, if you were the LO and you weren't writing that down, then it's like, well, I don't know. Like, maybe that's true, maybe that's not. So yeah. Basically, like, this is the general gist. Like, individual debaters will have their own, like, spin on things. Like, again, like, horizontal, diagonal aside, maybe you're typing away on a computer or doing it on a tablet. I don't know. Whatever floats your boat. I recommend, like, most people will recommend that you stick with pencil and paper because, like, look at how much, like, skipping around I was doing. Like, as the leader of the opposition alone, I was writing in, like, 3 different columns at the same time. So if you're, like, say, I don't know, trying to do that on a laptop, well, try doing that on Excel and see how far that gets you. Like, Excel is not your friend in this sort of situation. It just doesn't give you the flexibility when it comes to, like, scrolling down, like, something about econ here, but then also, like, marriage over here or something like that. I don't know. This is apparently I have a weird round going on. But yeah. So that's flowing in a nutshell. I hope you guys found this explanation helpful. Let me know if you didn't, and then we'll try to get that fixed and upload a new video. But for now, happy debating!